Hello people of the internet, I'm Jontje, I'm autistic, and I can't talk very well today, but I decided to film all the videos for the next 4 weeks or something today anyway, because I don't know, it was not a good idea, but I'm doing it anyway. And ironically enough, the topic for this video is why writing is hard. Which is essentially also why I have a YouTube channel and not a blog. Yeah, but anyway. Writing. Right. Well, yeah. If you haven't guessed already, I find writing very, very difficult, which is why it takes me absolutely enormous amounts of time to answer any comments. So I'm sorry about that. But it literally takes me half an hour per comment, and you don't need to be a super successful YouTube person with millions of subscribers to not get to any comments with that speed. Because, I also have other things to do. Anyway, and sort of what actually took me a long time to realize, but what I think is, which is quite a large part to why I just writing, not just social writing, I guess, in a way, writing to communicate socially, but just writing in general, writing essays for school, for school or university or whatever. It's just that masking actually applies to writing as well, and it can apply to it in a very different way to how one uses masking, in spoken communication. But this is, for me, for example, I don't think I mask overly a lot, which, by the way, masking refers to acting, not autistic, basically, which I presume most people who watch this channel know. But anyway, I don't really experience that I mask a lot when I talk to other people, normally, but I do quite a lot when I write. And I think part of that has to do, well, first of all, it's a very different mode of communication, but it's a mode of communication where potentially you have a lot more time to think about, the communication in general. So there is this sort of element of more control, which some autistic people seem to experience as very helpful, but it's very overwhelming to me. I'm a very weird person because I actually prefer to make phone calls, and I sort of plan what I say, but I sort of use the fact that I have 100% control of what I say when I write, what I express when I write, is actually overwhelming, and I end up in a sort of endless spiral of, is that communicating exactly what I wanted to communicate? Whereas when I'm speaking, it's just sort of, there's a time constraint, and so I just throw any sort of general word that might be in the right direction of what I want to say. And that makes it a lot easier than, actually having the freedom to choose exactly. But, and at the same time, I think, because writing is more controlled, there's sort of a general expectancy of people. Yeah, hello from editing me. So, over the course of this video, I keep saying the word expectancy when, of course, the grammatically correct word would be expectation. Basically, I don't know what happened the language part of my brain was not being very cooperative that day. So I apologize for the grammatical inconvenience, and I will now hopefully let you watch the rest of this video in peace. Because writing is more controlled, there's also an expectancy of doing it well. And even when neurotypical people talk, they repeat words or they pause at certain times because they're thinking of what they're wanting to say, and they make grammatical mistakes and so on. But most people can, when they're listening, they can sort of still get what the other person is trying to say, because our brains are very, very used to that, because that's what we hear all the time. But because writing is so much more controlled, there's the expectancy that all those things be right and exact. And then writing also has a different tone, and sort of tone is generally not the easiest thing for most autistic people. At least it isn't for me. And we tend to not, or many of us tend to not be very good at recognizing different tones and mixing tones. Like I often use one as in a person in these videos, and that's most people do not expect that to happen in casual speech. That's not the right register for that, which is the professional linguistics term for the type of words and phrases that are expected to be used in a certain context, which is usually a social context, obviously. So, but writing has a different register, and of course there's sort of subcategories of that as well again. And writing can be, especially if you don't read a lot. I actually read a lot, but still. You tend to hear speech because, we tend to hear, even whether we read a lot or not, we tend to hear speech a lot over, the day and our general life. Most of us, I guess. And writing, usually, of course, not always for everyone, but usually less so. And so the kind of vocabulary and, might be a lot less used and therefore harder to access, just for the brain, because, it isn't used that much, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have it readily accessible all the time. And on top of that, when, you're writing, there's a lot of arbitrary grammar and spelling rules. At least to me they seem arbitrary. I do not see the logic. But there are sort of a lot of rules that you have to follow and a lot of things you have to be conscious of. And especially if you, have to write in multiple languages, which have different rules about different things, which I cannot for the life of me ever distinguish. And I don't know, I'm always mad if you take, exams for foreign language exams that want to test certain aspects of how well you speak that language and, write it and so on. And I get mad when they grade me down for not speaking correctly or not spelling and writing correctly, and I'm like, I can't do that in my native language. Like, I feel like if you would do, foreign language exams, you should take a sample of that person's native abilities in the native language and then compare to that, and not to the objective standard of well speaking, because I mean, if I can't spell properly in my native language, how do you expect me to spell properly anywhere else? I don't know. It's just, it's always wrong, and it's usually always a mix of a couple of languages. For me, I don't know what's going on there. But the point was that there's a lot of spelling and grammar rules to pay attention to, which you have to do less of when you're speaking like this. And, well, I think also that writing actually needs a lot of like processing and motor skill. Well, it definitely needs different processing and motor skills than speaking. And sort of it requires you except if you're speaking sign language, obviously. It requires you writing other than speaking, requires you to have very, fine hand motor skills, which I do not have. Especially writing per hand. Writing computer is obviously kind of different, but still, it's a different kind of coordination. And you also kind of have to, especially in like most, like English and, probably most languages that people who watch this will be native speakers of, are phonology based, so you have to sort of, at least in your head, kind of speak the words, have an idea of how the word would be spoken in order to write it, because our writing system is sort of loosely phonology based. But yeah, that was probably a bit rambly try at explaining why I find writing very difficult, and basically, I guess, I don't know, how long is this video? 15 minutes? 20 minutes? I don't know, of me making excuses for why I don't answer my comments, I guess. Sorry, again. Anyway, that's all I have for this, so I don't know, if you appreciated this and maybe found it interesting or anything like that, I would very much appreciate it if you could like this video. Or if you haven't already subscribed to my lovely YouTube channel, I would be much obliged to you if you would, but of course you don't have to. Anyway, and with that, I will hope to see you, maybe not, next week. Goodbye.